name is Mary Dees, and I am the founder of DomesticHomicide.com and the Love of My Life to Death podcast. I am honored to have Priscilla Deal Rossi with me today to share her story about her sister, Christina Deal, who was murdered, was taken from us September 2003. And Priscilla, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for agreeing to, speak with us and share your story. And I'm going to turn it over to you. And this is your time to let us know, where you are, how the last 23 years have been, and what we can learn about domestic homicide and prevention-wise, and how us as family members and loved ones are able to deal with the aftermath of such a horrific tragedy. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really want to thank you for the opportunity. As you mentioned, the upcoming parole is this June. And the reason I'm doing this podcast and a lot of other things is because this is our second parole hearing. Our first parole hearing didn't go exactly as I would have liked. So I took a different approach this parole hearing. The first one didn't really go as I would like because we got the maximum in the state of Ohio is 10 years. I went in there into that parole hearing thinking we would definitely get our 10 years because it's the first parole hearing. They would have to know that they couldn't do less than that. I didn't seek out community support. Everybody had forgotten about my sister except my family, my immediate family. And we got 8 years, which I heard is pretty good, but I wasn't happy with that. So my approach after that was that I needed to do something to help everyone remember my sister and help them remember the impact that this had on all of us. So that's when I started my blog that I had shared with you, sharing my story and sharing that impact that it basically my personal story, my grief story, and going through that trauma through the years. They were just, I took them out of my journal, my blog. I just kind of put them on this site and shared with the world to kind of see my pain. That was pretty difficult. And then I did a lot of social media posting. I did a lot of stuff on our community page to make sure people wouldn't forget. So when we got to this moment, I was able to then recruit those people that read our story and help them ask for a denial of parole. And this podcast is one of those steps that I'm taking to hopefully put out there our story and the long-lasting impact it has on a victim of a someone that is a family member of someone that was murdered, and for people to understand and hopefully help people like you that are in the beginning stages of this journey and knowing maybe what to do to navigate your way through something that you don't really have a book, to tell you what to do. Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about your sister and what, happened and who the person that we're going to try to rally to keep in prison? Can you give us a little bit of information in regards to that?
Yeah, so my sister was an amazing, loving, kind person. Sorry. She was the type of person that like since she was little, like pre-K, kindergarten, if you were the most unliked person in that classroom, she would be your best friend. She was someone that was going to befriend the person that had no friends and to be your best friend and the person that was going to have your back at all times. She was my little sister, but always someone that would stand up for me. I remember being bullied in the bus once, and she was 3 years younger than me, and it was like this big kid, and he was like saying stuff about me, and she stood up, probably 4 feet shorter than him, and said, "Leave my sister alone," So she was that kind of person. Um, she only dated Joseph Amador for 3, maybe 4 months. Uh, and the relationship was really fast. He was very controlling from the beginning. He wanted all of her time to be with him. At such a young age, I didn't understand some of those warning signs. Neither did my sister. She was only 18. I was only 20, I just turned 22. But we didn't understand those signs of control that he was showing. She couldn't be without him. I was in college at the time in New York, so I only met him tw not even once, um, but near his proximity twice. So once the first sign that I saw was I was in town, she would automatically, normally, wherever she would be, stop what she was doing and come see me. But she didn't, which I thought was odd, but she had my nephew and I wanted to see her and I wanted to see my nephew. And my mom told me that she was at Amador's home, that we would have to go over there. Cell phones weren't around at that time. So we just kind of showed up, and she looked like she wanted to leave with us, but she couldn't leave with us. And I was like, why don't you come home? Come with us with the baby. She gave us Malachi, but she was like, I can't. And I didn't probe or ask like why. It kind of felt like, okay, well, if she can't, it means she doesn't want to, but I didn't understand the words "I can't" and what that meant. Then my next time that I saw him, he was sleeping on our couch, like sitting up sleeping. And I remember asking my sister, why, like, what is he doing? Like, why is he sleeping on the couch? And she goes, oh, well, he worked a late shift last night. And I said, so why doesn't he go home and take a nap? And she goes, oh, well, he wanted to be here because I needed to be here, for something that my parents had happening. And I said, well, he doesn't have to be with you all the time. He can go home and take a nap. And
Right.
she's like, well, he didn't want to. So there was signs that I didn't understand at the time, where he was controlling who she could be with, and she couldn't be anywhere without him. And when she told me that they were engaged or going to get married and engaged after those 3 months of them dating, that was another sign that I missed. That he was now requiring her to like marry him, like putting his like stamp of like, this is mine,
Right.
on her. And that was really all that I knew of him. I didn't explore the relationship much more. I told her, you can't get married. I did all the big sister kind of things, like, what are you thinking? You're only 18, like you can't get married to him. And she's, was just trying to convince me, I hope you're going to be part of the wedding. And
Right.
I told her, like, this is crazy. You need to pick up and move you and Malachi to New York with me. I just need to finish school. And that was the plan initially, was that I finished school and then she would come and move in with me, not to marry Joseph Amador, but this guy kind of changed our plans and everything that we had,
Right.
for our future, for years and years to come.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so common, and I relate because, so many signs of my sister giving me that I should have recognized and I overlooked at the time that are so obvious to me today. So it's just one of those things, especially as a big sister. My sister was 3 years younger also. I always felt that need to, help her and to lead the way. And, I feel looking back, like I missed so many opportunities that I should have said something. I should have done something. And it's a hard place for us to be in as a bigger sister, that we didn't recognize those during the time.
Yeah, yeah. Guilt is a killer, it definitely has taken away my joy for a long time. And um it's hard not to, I did start therapy only 2 years, 3 years ago. And I definitely would advise anybody that has gone through this to start a lot sooner than what I did. Like I mentioned, I was only 22 at the time, and no, it was also a different world. Back then, therapy was more taboo. And my parents didn't advise me to take therapy, not because they were bad parents, but they were broken themselves. There was no one to pick up our broken pieces except ourselves. So my 22-year-old self had to pick up my broken pieces because my parents were trying to pick up their own broken pieces, and I was in a different state. Like I said, finishing college and just trying to put one foot in front of the other. So therapy was the last thing on my mind. But with therapy, I did realize that I had a lot of guilt for those things. And I think it's instinctual. It's just something that is there, that it's like, why didn't I tell her? Why didn't I see this? Or why didn't I, you know, um, push more, ask more questions? It's something that it's hard not to ask myself those questions as the bigger sister.
I get it. I understand that. So what do you know what caused
Mm.
the incident to take place, and did a trial come? Did you have to go through that whole process, and how did we get to this parole hearing, this second parole hearing, and how can we be part of helping you to, he goes by Andy, right? Is that correct?
Yes, he did go by Andy. That's how most people knew him. I have strayed from that name to Amador. I don't know. It makes me feel less of a connection
Right.
with him. So I seem to notice that I don't use that name anymore. I use his last name. I would use his inmate prison number if I had it memorized instead, but I usually go by Amador, but in my blog, I will refer to him usually as Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was my sister broke up with him. She didn't tell me much other than she been seeing more of his true colors. I do know that had bruising on her body. That she reportedly told us that someone that uh, Andy had paid someone to do that. Um, Looking back at it, I don't know if that was just a cover for him doing it. I'm not really sure, you know, exactly with that, but there was a lot of bruising that my grandma had told me about. And this was like about a week before her murder. She had broken up with him and decided that she wanted to see other people. She had told him this, and he had, I guess, like just verbally told her that like he didn't want that, basically. And then the night of her murder, he had drove with his cousin to go pick up gloves and a car, or someone dropped him off at a restaurant that he used to work at. Dropped off him and his cousin at this restaurant. He picked up gloves at that time. And he also borrowed a co-worker's car. Then he went and picked up my sister. He wanted to talk to her, he said. He picked her up around 3 o'clock in the morning from this person's house, and apparently dropped off his cousin at that time, and then drove another 20 minutes from their location to an abandoned field in my hometown. And that's where he raped and murdered her. I know he raped her because there's in the file, in the evidence file, his seminal fluid was found on his pants and also on hers. And I also know he raped her because I've had reports from previous girlfriends that have told me that they have been raped at knife point by him. And I also know he raped her because she was seeing someone else at this point. She wanted to move on. And then he stabbed her in the back. He slashed her throat. She had multiple defensive wounds on her arms. And those wounds were something that at her casket, like the funeral home couldn't even put enough, like the funeral putty and makeup that they put on there, couldn't even put enough on her to cover them. The gashes were just so deep. And he used a kitchen knives to murder her. He had sewed Cutco kitchen knives. So one of my things, triggers, I guess you would say, is sometimes just making dinner every night because I have to cut with a kitchen knife.
Right.
So that's something that has always been hard for 23 years. Trying to get those images of my sister's arms, at the casket, and thinking about how many times he had a chance to stop himself, but he didn't. Thinking about the drive that he took where he could have stopped himself, thinking about the actions that he took before he picked up my sister that he could have stopped himself. So this was premeditated, aggravated murder that he was charged with. But he took a plea bargain, or we took a plea bargain, or I should say my parents did. They were scared at the time of a trial. The attorney had told them, you don't want to drag your parents, or you don't want to drag your family through the mud and put all these details out there of all the things that they could say about your daughter and the things that like she was doing. And at the time, a lot of victim shaming as well. And my parents were scared of those things. They were scared of putting the family through the trial after everything that we had been through. And they told my parents that, listen, like it's 15 parole to life, but he'll never get out. It'll be life. It's, it's
What was
the
the number? 15 years?
15 to life. Yeah. And they said, but he'll never get out. He'll never get parole. But what they didn't tell my parents is that our family is going to be the one with the life sentence. We're going to be the ones fighting for parole every 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, 4 years. It's going to be us that will be suffering throughout that time. So my parents took the plea bargain, and he is up for his second parole hearing.
Wow. It is tough to go through that trial process. We did do that, and the jury and the courts failed. My sister, she was put on trial versus her husband of 20 years, who made his defense attorneys made him the victim, which was shocking, surprising, and unfair. But it's also got to be hard to go through, the acceptance of a plea bargain of 15 years and then having to, revisit this every 10 years. That's got to be difficult. Are your parents still here? Are they still able to,
They are. I have taken the lead in like the advocacy, and they're older now, and I'm older now, so they are still here, and still obviously, they met with the parole board on May 6th. Actually was their victim conference. It's hard and difficult for them. My mom has, a heart condition now, so we try to be careful with, what she does and how much she's involved and knows on this. Thankfully, they are not on social media. Like you kind of mentioned, social media can be, it's twofold. You have the benefit of getting community support, but then you also have to face like a lot of the stupid comments or things that people might say, that might get you angry, and then you have to ignore a lot of things. And sometimes I try, sometimes I can't ignore it and I have to respond. But it can be consuming and overwhelming.
and cruel? It's very cruel.
Yes.
Did they tell you how it went on May 6th? I mean, what is that process? Is it revisiting the entire case, or is it just, where are you now? What are your feelings about it? Do you know what?
Yeah. Um, so in the state of Ohio, at least, each state might be different, but in the state of Ohio, the way that they do it now is that it's virtual, which I do feel is not great for the victims, because in person I feel is more intimate, for someone to understand, what you're going through and to make that human connection. You only get to meet with one person from the parole board. So we decided that we would do 3 different meetings. My parents would have a meeting, I would have a meeting, and my nephew would have a meeting, and we would ask for 3 different parole board members. Because there's 5 people on our parole board. I think it can be anything from like 3 to 5 people. I think more serious of the crime is more people. So I wanted to make sure that we met with a different parole board member each time, because they are making a decision that's impacting our life. So I didn't feel it was fair if we only met with the same parole board member each time.
Are these
So
people full-time parole? Is that their job, or do they have other duties that sit on a parole board to listen to certain cases?
I'm not really sure on that. I do know the person that my parents met with was a former, um, I was a former lawyer. I don't know if she currently is, and she does this part-time. So I'm not 100%, but I would advise, though, finding out if you do have an upcoming parole hearing, how many parole board members, and if your family is able to divide up their meetings, then that would be probably best if you could meet with each parole board member and give your impact statement to each person. So we do have 3 different people, parole board members, that we are meeting with. And we hope to convince them of the long-lasting impact and not to just look at this as a murder charge, but an aggravated murder charge, which at the time in the state of Ohio would hold a life sentence or the death penalty even at that time.
So I'm assuming it's changed.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think it's death penalty at this time anymore. I know when my sister died that it was for sure.
Wow. So does Amador get to have this opportunity to speak to these members as well? And do you know how he's done in prison? Does he have, a good story to share in regards to the reasons why he should be released?
Right. So what you have to get is something called an ISR report before your parole hearing. The ISR report is like the I believe it stands for Institutional Summary Report. That tells you how he's behaved and any like classes and stuff that he's like done. Usually your victim advocate can kind of help you with that, getting that information. What we found was that he has had good behavior. And he always does the classes that he needs to do right before the parole hearings, so like when it's like about 6 months before his parole, he's taking all these, better yourself classes like anger management, things like that. So it was good to know because I then have to kind of approach this with the pro board differently. And the way that I'm approaching it is that, this is a man that is controlling with women. He has a history of violence with women, not just Christina, but controlling ex-girlfriends and what they do as well. So the way that I'm going to approach it with the pro board is letting them know this and letting them know that our prison system is not built to know how this kind of man will behave amongst women in society. Our prison system is, he's with other bigger and stronger men. He's only like 5'5", 5'6". So of course he's going to behave in prison when there's other stronger and bigger men that can put him in his place. The worry and the concern that the parole board should have is when in the community, are they willing to release such a man that has this kind of history with women? Because are they truly able to see how he'll behave in that kind of setting? And the answer is they don't. They don't know how he'll behave. They can only base that off of his history. People that commit domestic violence I think the stat is like 50% more likely to do it in the future, that they'll be repeat offenders. And that stat most likely is underreported because, well, women don't report, and it's unlikely that we're going to see the true, stat of that ever, because a lot of times they are scared to put out there what a man might be doing to them, because out of fear for their own life or for their children.
Right. So is this process different today than it was 8 years ago when you went through it? It was 8 years ago, right?
Yeah. So we were in person. I do remember meeting with 2 of the 5 pro board members, so it wasn't a lot. There was, I believe you could only have 1 conference, so there is at least the benefit of, you doing multiple conferences for each immediate family member. But I do remember that we were able to, whoever wanted to attend that conference could 8 years ago, whereas now only, I mean, my husband can attend the conference, but he can't speak. They said only immediate family members are able to speak. I do recall that in the first conference, that whoever we wanted to speak was able to go ahead and speak during that meeting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel confident that he's going to get an extension? Or how do you feel going into June?
So I have received a lot of community support. Um, I have utilized the media. If you read my blog, I had a very bad interaction with the media when my sister was killed. It was overwhelming. There was no compassion from them, and the stories just, kind of on the news while we're like grieving, and it's just like this news story that you're seeing, and you're sitting there and grieving it, and you're like, you see your sister's face on the TV, and it's a reality for you, and this is someone's like entertainment and news. So it was hard to do the media interviews because I was worried about what they might say, or, it being viewed as just kind of a story again. But at the same time, I knew if I didn't do the media interviews, it would just mean less support from the community. So I did media interviews. Some of them are kind of being, I believe one was just released today on social media. So I do feel we have a very strong backing. I don't think that he would be released. If he was, I would be devastated. So I don't even want my mind to go there. I am right now, I was told by our victim advocate, it will be impossible for them to go up years, that they already gave you 8 years, that to expect like 5 or less, especially because of the good behavior in prison.
So they shortened the time.
As you go across, yeah. So they told me it would be impossible to get 10 years, but I am hoping and I am praying. I am a Christian, and I have relied on my faith through most of this. And if I know they're telling me it's impossible, but I'm gonna believe in the impossible, and I'm gonna pray really hard that we get the impossible, and that we start back at that 10, because he should have got that 10 the first time around.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm not prepared for a release. I believe it's unfair and unjust that I just began a healing process, 2 or 3 years ago when I started my therapy. My nephew, Christina's son, hasn't began. He's only 23 at this time, and he's like me when I was that age of, okay, well, I don't need therapy. I just got to keep going. I got to, meet these goals 1 foot in front of the other. But, losing your mom in such a tragic way, and then growing up without a mom, and all of that, are things that he's going to have to deal with, and he deserves the chance and opportunity to go ahead and deal with that on his own pace, and without the fear of knowing that Joseph Amador is out there and free.
Right. And he was only 10 months old when this happened, so his memory is
Just pictures, yeah.
pictures. Wow, that's got to be so hard, and I'll definitely be keeping him in prayers. What about the support that he has from his family and friends? Do you know what that is?
Yeah. So sorry, it gets me emotional. Support means a lot to us, especially from our family and friends. And my college roommates, and my college friends were were the ones that kind of got me through that time in my life because, like I said, I lived in New York with all of them, and we were just kids, that were trying to navigate through this, and them trying to carry me, through it too. And um, they provided a lot of support come this parole hearing with writing letters and talking about the impact to me and my family and Malachi. And he has the same support. He has a group of, college friends that have reached out and have, asked if they're able to go ahead and write impact letters on his behalf and um, help him through this process. So the support that we get from our family and friends and our community has been overwhelming. I remember the first parole hearing, I felt abandoned by the community and my family and my friends. But I take responsibility for that because I didn't recruit what I needed to. I just kind of expected everybody to kind of be there and, figure it out. And, I was figuring it out. Shouldn't everybody else, be supporting me and helping me along this way? But I didn't recruit that, but now I did, and it's made a difference.
Yes. A lot of times people don't know because their lives go on and they kind of forget. And the ones of us that live this every day, first thing I think about when I wake up, the last thing I think about when I go to sleep, they don't have that same, focus. And sometimes we do feel lost that, you know, we're left still in the middle of this tragedy where many others have moved on. And it's, I want them to be happy. I want them to move on. That, that's great. But we definitely have to know when we have to ask for that support again. And I'm glad that they have surrounded you and her son and your family. And hopefully we can get, more support, more letters written, that he should remain in prison where he should live out his final days.
Right. Yeah, I'm hoping.
What about Amador's support? Does he have support from his family and friends?
Um,
Do you know?
I don't know. What I do know is some talk here and there that I can't validate on social media that a lot of people have stopped talking to him and haven't supported him. Um, something that was written in the police report in one of the interviews um, was that Amador himself had said, my mom always told me that if I wasn't able to like control my emotions, that one day I would just snap and do something like that I would regret. So I do think that they probably also had signs. And I do think that if they also had signs, there's probably a lot of guilt. And what people do when there's guilt is they distance themselves from the thing that makes them feel that guilt.
Right.
So I do believe if people had signs and felt that way with him, then they probably have distanced themselves. So I don't know. I have made a plea on social media that Amador's family does reach out to the parole board, that their letters are kept confidential. And if they feel and they know inside that he shouldn't be released, their letters will hold a lot of weight for my family, and that they should write in those letters and let the parole board know what they feel and think about him.
That's great that they're confidential, so someone can report while keeping, those lines from being, him knowing that his mother, his brother, his,
Mhm.
cousin that, sounds like he just got out of the vehicle just, in minutes before,
Right.
that they can send that information and be protected.
Yeah, I
Um,
should mention, just for anybody that might be viewing this, that does vary per state. So I did find out through our victim advocates directly, because there are some states that maybe the letters are kept confidential, but then they have to tell if they do deny parole, they have to tell the inmate reasons why the parole was denied, which can then maybe put someone at risk. But in the state of Ohio, they do not have to let them know who wrote letters, and they also do not have to give them reasons on why the parole was denied. Like, they don't have to give specific reasons.
I like that. Go Ohio.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Your victim advocate, I'm assuming that these have been different people throughout the years. It's not the original victim advocates that was with you in 2003.
Actually, our victim advocate, not the same in 2003, but for the past two parole hearings, Mr. Thomas King has been our victim advocate, and he's been very helpful.
Wow, that's great. That's really good. Do you have to have an attorney going into this as well, or can you just use your victim advocate to speak or ask for things on the family's behalf?
For us, it's just our victim advocate that's there on our behalf.
And what about him? Does he have a court appointed attorney that's helping him do the appeal at the state's court?
Um, I'm not sure exactly how his process works. That's something that I do plan on asking more about once we get through our victim conferences, because I was very unclear about it the last parole hearing. I knew it took a few weeks. So like they told us June 2026 would be his parole hearing, like where he actually meets in front of the parole board. But I do remember the first time we went through this, like I didn't have like a specific date of, it was August 2018 or something at that time. So like I didn't have like a specific date of when we would hear exactly how the whole process works, if we're able to be present for that. I'm not certain on that part of it. But it is information I do plan on getting this pro after we get through our victim conference. Then I want to go ahead and tackle that and figure out how that works, and we'll have more information at that time.
Have you seen Amador since this has happened at any point?
No, the only thing that I have seen was more like the updated picture, which I had posted on social media of his, like, it's like his inmate picture that you look up when you go to the Ohio State of Corrections.
Mhm.
So that's the only like contact that I've had of him. He's never tried to contact our family, and the apology, that letter that's on file, um, wasn't personally sent to us, but it was on file for the parole board. It's very, what's it called? Like it's like a template. Like it seems like you go ahead and just enter like that. I'm sorry for this, and have changed this, and I this. A lot of I's. Um, and no mention really of our family or the impact to make you think that anything was like regrettable, or that he fully understands, what we're going through.
Right. And that's one of the hardest things for me to accept is, the remorse, the regret, the reaching out to the many lives, not just my side of the family, my sister's side of the family, but his own family and everything that he's gone through, where a simple, apology letter or heartfelt, like I don't know why I still think this person's a human and that
Mm-hmm.
this person was in our family for 20 years,
Yeah.
why that hasn't come. Um, just as a good person would do, or, sitting in a jail cell for 23 years or 3 years. At what point do they say, I have a little bit of time on my hands, let me write a letter and let Priscilla know how deeply sorry I am for taking her sister, or, it really, it's hard for me to understand how someone
Mm-hmm.
can be that big of a monster and narcissistic to still, even after being imprisoned, thinking only about themselves and not about us.
Right. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, yeah, I don't think we'll ever get that. But I also, if we did, I don't feel that I would even believe it. So I don't know. I don't know really what I want. I, you know, would think that, someone that did something so awful, that would be their first like thought
Right.
of, hey, I need to say something, but and apologize. And even though if I know that's not going to make any kind of difference, I want them to understand like the regret and my remorse. But I feel that there's nothing that he could say really at this point. There's so much damage that has been done, throughout our lives. He's reached through those bars and has continued to crush us, our futures and our dreams and what we thought we would have, my sister being my, maid of honor in my wedding. That's something that he's, reached through those bars, and he took that away from me. He's taking away from Malachi, him being able to dance with his mom at his wedding.
Right.
There's so many memories that weren't even made yet that he's stolen.
Yes.
The apology that he would have to make would have to be endless, because it continues to take away, he continues to take away things,
Right.
and immobilize us and traumatize us, even from behind in that prison cell.
Right. Without saying a word. I
Mhm.
I get it. And I know that you mentioned, you have faith, and that's what's got you through, many years at this point. That has also gotten me through times that I did not think I would even be able to get up. I'm out of bed, and here I have to function and do the things, to support my kids and to take care of my business and to also take care of my physical self, just to make sure that I remain healthy. But it's hard. And then, like Erica Kirk, getting out there in a public forum and saying she forgave someone that took her husband. I was like, I, I, I try, I
Mhm.
try, but I can't because I'm still in that, you took one of the most important people from me. And as you just said, we live it every single day without
Yeah.
words. They have their arms through, and I love what you said, their arms through those bars, and they're still affecting our lives. every single day, and multiple lives, just extended family and friends that, loved and cared for Christina.
Yeah.
I just, I, I I don't know how some people are able to do it, but
Yeah.
I love that faith was an answer for you going through your path because it gives me hope.
Yeah. I was asked in yesterday's news interview if I forgave Joseph Amador. I wasn't expecting the question, but something that it made me recall was in my first letter that we read for when his sentencing, so his sentencing letter. I remember saying something that I'm not going to allow him um, to keep damaging who I am, like inside, that he's taken so much and he's going to continue to take so much, but I'm gonna stop it there. And my cousin had said something to me yesterday because I told her how I answered, and the way that I answered was that I forgive because I was forgiven, that I believe that Christ died for me and that he's forgiving my sins. And because of that, I forgive, that I don't really have a choice. I mean, I guess I have a choice. I'm being just obedient, I guess, and I'm doing it out of obedience, that I forgive because I'm forgiven. Now, does that mean, do I not believe in justice? No, I feel like they're two different things. I believe that he should serve a life sentence because he took a life, and
Yes.
that would be justice. But my cousin had told me, that maybe the way that I could look at it um, is also that forgiveness is more for us, than the person that is the one that's doing something against us. And that allows us to be free more so of them. And I did think about that, and there is something that's true in that. He's takes and continues to take so much from us. But I do have, because of, my faith and the God I serve, I do have control of that. That let that go because I have no choice, and I forgive because I'm forgiven.
Yes.
Um, and I'm content with that. It doesn't take away from what I feel needs to be done with him and what he deserves. So I'm going to continue to do everything I can in my power to make sure that he serves the time that he needs to serve and he stays in there.
Absolutely. And I agree 1,000% that, prison is where these people need to be. They have taken someone's life and they need to remain in prison. Um, my daughter's at 11 years old. She's like, Mom, I hope Uncle Carrie goes to the bad place. And it
Mm.
was a hard, hard discussion to have with her
Mhm.
because I told her he if he's truly asking for forgiveness from God, he
Mhm.
could be in heaven with us. And that's a good thing. And that's something we have to celebrate.
Yeah,
That was a hard mommy moment, uh,
yeah.
making sure I say the right thing with all the built up anger and
Mhm.
everything I had. We have a God that will forgive. And
Mhm.
to me, that is, I hope to see him in heaven. And that's hard.
And something that my other cousin, I'm very close to my two cousins, Aaron and Leah, but what Aaron had said, so Leah had said that, forgiveness is for us. And what Aaron had said was, that someone was talking to a pastor and asked him, do we have to forgive if they don't ask for forgiveness? And something to contemplate, because we do have to ask God for forgiveness in order to be forgiven. And if the criminal is not asking us for forgiveness, do we have to forgive? It's something to, think about.
Yeah. Yeah. But it does relieve us.
Mhm.
It allows us the opportunity to laugh a little more, smile a little more. It'll never be the same. I always say it's, the before and after effect, whether it was 9/11 or for me, the space shuttle, not going up when it should have, when I was in, there was the before and then the afterlife.
Mhm.
This is the same thing. There was the before, when I could find joy and happiness, and then there's a after where I have to seek it a little more, but I'm trying. I'm trying every day. And it'll never be the same, because after someone goes through a murder of a family member, our lives are changed permanently.
Mhm.
I appreciate you doing what you're doing to honor your sister. I definitely will share on my post on my social media sites the information that if you can, format it and give the address of how we get letters to the parole board prior to, this journey that you're on approaching next month, right? It's in
Yeah,
June. So
yeah.
he deserves to remain in prison. That's exactly where he should be. And hopefully they hear your cries, they agree with you, they extend it for another 10 years. I guess this is something that you're going to have to go through every 10 years or 8 years or 5 years, whatever it is. But I can tell you're not going to give up. And that's because it's obvious that you loved your sister, love your sister. I always tell people I still have a sister. She's just not
Mhm.
here physically, on earth. But I applaud you.
Mhm.
If there's anything I can do for you, please reach out. And is there anything else you would like to say before we finish up here?
Um, I think if anyone is listening that is in a relationship that is questionable, I guess I would just say to get out, um, and to protect yourself when you get out, because my sister tried to get out, and she was it did lead to her death, but we didn't see, if we protected ourselves and we were more aware of the signs of someone that hurts and controls and abuses. And they're not all easy, like he was very calm in public and what people would call sweet in public, and very angry in private.
Right.
He, like I mentioned, controlled where she was, who she was with, was very jealous of where she spent her time, dictated what she could do and what she couldn't do. But I would advise anybody that, is seeing those signs, that you get out and then you protect yourself while you're out. There's new laws kind of coming into play that can help us. But women, 1 in 3 women will face some kind of domestic, physical, or sexual abuse
Yes.
from an intimate partner. And 85% of women that are murdered are
But
by someone they know.
yes,
It's a
yes.
huge statistic, and it's not getting better.
Right.
And I do want people to be aware of that. I think something that has kind of helped me through writing the blog, even though it was like very difficult, are the women that have reached out and have said that this has like made a difference for them and has gotten them out of a relationship, and helps me feel that my sister's, life, even though was taken, was, there's a purpose that it's serving for others. So I guess that's what I would want to leave you with.
Yes, I agree so much. I say that I do what I do for that silver lining that my sister is saving lives, just as your sister is saving lives. And
Mhm.
the only thing that I would add to that statement, which was perfect, was the exit strategy. Making sure your exit strategy is kept close, that you're not sharing it with people that you can't completely trust, and know that even though it sounds like everything's cordial, everything's going great, whether you've been married for 20 years or whether you just started dating, always be on guard, because a lot of these narcissists are able to portray that, person that the public sees is different than the person that the private home sees within. And that strategy, that exit strategy needs to be known. It needs to be prepared. And when you make that exit, keep going, get
Yeah,
safe, get to that house, that family member, that friend that's going to be able to provide a safe space for you and let this, end.
you're right. Yeah, and don't look back. My sister allowed him that opportunity to try to talk to her. He said he wanted to talk to her, and she allowed that. And I just wish she wouldn't have looked back. So don't look back. Keep going.
Me too. Well, you're my new friend and I appreciate you. And please, let's do a follow-up after the parole hearing has taken place. Hopefully you'll have good news that you don't have to deal with this for another 10 years. But like I said, anything we can do, we're here for you and wish you the very, very best. And please give my love and prayers to the rest of your family. I will be thinking about you all.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.